Hey guys, welcome to this next episode in the Android development tutorial series. So, in the previous episode, we saw about shared preferences and how to save simple data types using shared preferences, right? So, in this episode, what we're gonna do is we're gonna look at the next way of saving data, right? So, one drawback of shared preference is that you can only store, primitive data types like integers, booleans, floats, strings, and all that, right? You won't be able to store your the custom objects that you make. Like if I have this object here, right? Sorry, no, this wait. So if I have this object, right? So if you see this object has an integer and three strings, right? So all these four data types relate to one object, one baker item object, right? But I can't store this in the shared preferences. So we need some other way to store this kind of information, to the local storage. So that's where SQLite comes in. You might have heard about SQLite, right? If you guys haven't heard about SQLite, I won't be teaching you the basics of SQLite here. So I will post some links in the description box below. So I recommend if you don't know SQLite or if you have experienced SQLite a long time before and you need some refresher, okay, so those links will be better off for you, right? So once you view those links, you can come back here and we'll see how to use SQLite in Android. Okay, so SQLite, in an overview, SQLite is just a database where you can store objects, right? So you have this table, you have entities called tables, okay, like how your Excel sheet is, right? So you have something like that. So let me open the browser and I'll explain to you. So I'm gonna open. I'm gonna go to Google Docs, Google Sheets. Sorry, no Google Sheets, right? So Google Sheets is different, but the concept is nearly the same, right? So and I'm gonna start a new spreadsheet. All right. So a SQL database looks something like this. Okay. So you have grids. So in the first grid, you have the titles. So let's assume this row contains all IDs. This row contains all names. Right? This row contains all age, and this row contains all gender. Right? So let's say for the first person, the name is Sriram, age is 20, gender is male. Right? Second person, let's have something like Divya. Okay, age is 20, gender is female, right? So you can save this kind of relational objects. Okay, so this is called a relational database. So if you see this ID relates to this name, to this age, and to this gender. This name relates to this age and gender, right? So this ID relates to this name and to this age and gender, right? So this kind of like saving a relational objects of a relation. It's called a relational database, right? So this is the overview of SQL database, and again, if you want to learn the basic, if you don't know the basics of the SQL, I'll post some links in the description box below, so you can go and watch those videos. All right. So let's come back to Android Studio. Hopefully, after you've seen those videos, right? So So what you're gonna do is I'm gonna post a GitHub link below. So I've written some starter code for you guys to get started because I don't want to waste time explaining the whole app because we want to concentrate on the main SQL part, right? So I've written some code for you already. So that code will be in the description notes. If you go inside the folder which you downloaded, you will have this one folder called SQLite tutorial. So you have to open that folder. You have to open this SQLite tutorial folder in your Android Studio, and you will get this project. Okay. If you get this red squiggly line in the item detail activity, don't worry, we'll be fixing that soon. All right. So, how to get started with SQLite database? So, if you know about SQLite database, you know that you have tables, okay, and each table contains some rows, right? So, what we're gonna do is we're gonna first, I'm gonna go to view tools and project. I'm gonna open the project structure, okay, and in the Java part, I'm gonna create a new package I'm gonna write it as SQLite, right? So I'm gonna write a new Java class which will say baker item contract. So this contract is nothing but a class which contains all the constants required for the database, like the table name, the fields like ID, name, all those fields and all that. Because see, if you save all the constants in one place and reuse those constants, okay. Later, if you want to change the constant, you only have to change them in one place, and that effect will take place throughout your app. Otherwise, if you don't use constant and if you just type a string wherever you want, right, and you want to change it, let's assume the table name later on. So for that, you have to go through every instance of wherever you use the table name as a string, and you have to change it, right? So this is something. This is like a best practice, all right. So inside this baker item contract, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna implement this from something called base columns. Okay, this base columns is nothing. It just contains an integer ID field. Because to identify any row or any object, okay, you need an ID, right? So you can't just yeah. So the thing is, to identify any object, you need you'll save it. You'll save the row with something called an ID. Okay. So this base column is just Google's way of saying that, okay. So every row will have an ID, right? So I'm gonna do all right. Uh, I'm gonna do one thing. Okay, I'm gonna remove this implements base column. Okay, for now. Okay, and I'm gonna put a public static final string. We need public static final because this is constant. It's not gonna change, right? String, and I'm gonna put table name, table underscore name. Let me zoom in here. Equal to, let's assume baker table. Okay, and I'm gonna have a class here, okay, which says baker item. So this baker item contains all the constants required for this table. So this contract contains the constants for all the tables that you might have. You can have more than one table in the database, right? So this is the constant for the table name, and this class contains all the constant required for this table. Suppose later on we want to add one more table. Let's assume baker item 2 table name, right? So that time what we do, you do public class baker item 2 and then you put all the constants required in there, right? So I'm gonna implement this class from base columns again, like we did previously, right? So if you see, let's go to the baker item.java. If you see you have an ID, this ID is provided by base columns already, and we need these three fields, right? So I'm gonna put public static final string, um, not table title. Let's put item title, okay, and this will be title. And let's have a public static final string item costs will be costs, and public static final string string string, okay, item time will be time. Okay, so these are the fields we're gonna, for every object we will have these three fields and an ID field, right? So I think the work in this contract is done. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is, again I'm gonna go into the SQLite package, okay, and I'm gonna build something called baker item open helper. Okay, this is the class which will link us to the database, right? So first what we need to do is we need to extend this from open helper, SQLite open helper. Okay, we need to extend this. So you will see this red squiggly brace because SQLite open helper is an abstract class, meaning you have some methods you have to implement. So I'm gonna just click over here and I'm gonna press option enter in Mac and alt enter in Windows. So you'll get an option to implement methods. You'll get these two methods. You need to implement them, right? And for this you need a constructor also. That's why it's showing another again. So again you go up, you press alt enter, create constructor matching super, create the constructor. Okay. So what I'm gonna do is, in this constructor I'm gonna remove the string name. Okay. I'm gonna remove the cursor factory and the version. Okay. So we're gonna have the context. the name will be the name of the database. So I'm gonna actually forgot to add the database name in the contract. So I'm gonna again go up. I'm gonna do public static final string database name equal to bakers.db. Okay, you don't have to have .db, but I just have .db to to inform others who read my code that this is the database name, right? So that's like a convention. Okay, so I'm gonna come here instead of name. I'm gonna do uh, sorry, what is that? Yeah, baker item contract dot database name. Okay, factory we're not going to discuss about it now. That's an advanced feature. We'll discover it later. So just have null for that. Version will be again baker item contract dot version. Okay, so we'll add that here. Okay, so I'm gonna have public static final string database version equal to 1. Sorry, this is an integer, right? Sorry. So this is instead of string, it's going to be an integer. Okay. So this when you start coding, your database version will be 1. Whenever you change your schema, that is like right now you have these 3 fields, right? Suppose later on you feel like you don't need the time and you want something else. So when you change that, you're essentially changing the schema of the table, right? So that time you need to increment your database version to tell the system that your schema has changed, right? So here it's gonna be baker item contract dot database version. Okay, so our constructor is done. See, in onCreate, what we need to do is we need to create the database. So if you know SQL, you know how to, the statement which is used to create the database, right? So I'm gonna come up here. I'm gonna declare a constant, public static final string create database. Okay. So here, here you need to write the SQL command that will, create the table for you. So I'm gonna change this to create table. Sorry. Yeah. So the statement for to create table is create table and the table name, right? So here I'm gonna use the append and I'm gonna create the table name, right? So instead of using a string, okay, what we're gonna do is use something called string builder. Wait, the problem with string is that when you append string, right, it creates string individually and then it appends all together and forms one more string. So that's really memory inefficient. So I'm actually gonna just go here, okay, and I'm gonna do string builder equal to new string builder, right? So yeah, I'm gonna do builder dot append. First, we need to have create table, okay, and to this we need to append the table name. So it's the SQL command will look something like this, right? Create table and the table name here. What is our table name? Right, our table name is baker table, right? So baker table, okay, and we'll have an open bracket, close bracket, and in this we'll have all our fields. So ID and whatever thing we have for the ID, like each ID will be a primary key, and it will also be auto increment. Yeah, and before that we need to add number, right? Number. So if you go to the documentation, I've opened the documentation here. This is the official Android documentation, right? If you go here, you can see the SQL query, right? See, create table, the table name, you open the brace, and you have ID, what type is it, integer, and primary key. And then they've used the string append here, but we're not going to do that because that's really memory inefficient. So you need to always consider your memory, right? So this will be integer, okay, auto increment, comma, then our the next field will be title, okay. So if you see the type of text is this text, so it's title, sorry here, right, text, right, and after title it's gonna be, let's go to the contract, it's cost and time, right? So it's going to be something like this: cost text time also will store a string. Okay, text. So this is our SQL table. We need to form an SQL table like this. Okay. So here they've used the string append, but we're not going to do that. Okay. So let's create this here. So the create table is done. Okay. Here to that we need to append the table name. So that I'm gonna do from baker item contract dot table name, right? And to that we need to append this open parenthesis, right? Open parenthesis, and I'm leaving a space here. So that we're gonna append ID. So in the first thing is gonna be ID, right? So ID is baker item contract dot baker item dot if you see as this underscore ID here. Okay, that came from the what do we say? The base columns implementation, right? And to this we're gonna append this whole part, integer primary key auto increment. So I'm just gonna copy this. Okay. And I'm gonna leave a space here because after this there's no space, right? And I'm gonna place this. It's come to be integer, so I'm adding I here. Okay. And to this we're gonna append the title and the text, right? So it's gonna be baker item contract dot baker item dot item title, and we're gonna append a space and a text, and that's gonna be same. It's gonna be baker item contract dot baker item, and the next one is cost. So it's gonna be cost, and this is gonna be same. So I'm just gonna copy this. Okay, I'm just gonna copy this and paste it here. And again, it's gonna be baker item contract dot baker item dot, and the final thing is time, right? And then again I'm gonna append the text. Okay. Finally, we need to append the close parenthesis. I'm leaving a space and close parenthesis. Okay. So this is the whole SQL query we need to you know uh, create, right? So create table, table name, space table name, right? And after the table name, I'm going to leave a space again, and there's an open parenthesis, and it's going to be ID, integer, primary key, auto increment, right? Make sure there's a space between primary and key, otherwise there will be an SQL error, right? And then there's title text, cost text, and item text, and then finally we're closing the parenthesis. Alright. So now what we're going to do is, this is the database. So in this database we have to execute this statement, right? So we execute this create table statement within the database. So what I'm going to do, SQLite database dot exec SQL. So which if we pass in a string here, and that string is considered to be a SQL statement that's executed. So I'm going to do builder.toString. Since this is a builder, we have to add a toString here. All right, and our work in on create is done. On upgrade. So this on upgrade executes whenever you increment the version number. I told you, right. So whenever you make a change in the schema, you need to increment the version number. And whenever you increment the version number, so this on upgrade will run. So what we're going to do is we're going to just drop the table and then create the table again when you increment the version. So I'm going to say string drop command. So this we just use string because it's not really big like the create statement, right? So I'm going to say drop table if exists, okay, and the table name. So the table name will be baker item contract dot table name, right? So I'm gonna first do SQLite dot again execute SQL drop command, right? So we're gonna drop the table and we're gonna call on create again. So on create SQLite database, right? So what we're doing is we're dropping the table here, and then we're creating the table again. So I hope this class is really clear to you guys. All right. So now like we have all the setup we require to do SQL transactions. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to save data to SQL, and in the next videos, we will see how to query data from the database. So open this items detail activity class. Okay, so here on the add new item, right? This is where we're gonna write code to save data to the database. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is let's go to the documentation. Okay, I'm gonna go to the documentation here, and I'm gonna read the documentation. I'm gonna see put information in database, right? So let's see what first thing, the thing gets the data repository in the right mode. Okay, so yeah, so what we need to do is we need to get the database in writable mode. There are two modes. One is writable mode. One is readable mode. Okay, writable mode, you open the database in writable mode to write it, and you open the database in readable mode to read it. Right. So first I'm gonna come up here. Okay, and I'm gonna say private baker item open helper. Right. This is the open helper that we created. Right. M open helper, and in the on create, after this intent like line, I'm gonna say M open helper equal to new baker item open helper. I'm gonna pass in this as the context, right? So we have the open helper. So now we need to get the SQL database instance. So I'm gonna go to the add new item menu. So I'm gonna do SQLite. Wait, which class is it? SQLite database, right? Yeah. So I'm gonna do SQLite database equal to M open helper dot get writable database. Because we're gonna write data to the database, right? So next thing, if you go to the documentation, you see create a new map of values. Okay, so since we have a key value pair kind of thing, right? So instead of using hash map, the Android team has implemented something called content values. So don't worry about it. It's just something like hash map with a key and value pair. Okay, so I'm gonna create content values equal to new content values, right? So in this content values, whatever we want to say, we put it as key and value. Okay, so I'm gonna say values dot put. Okay, so first is the key and second is the value. So first we're gonna we don't have to put the ID, because ID will be auto generated for us because we have auto increment. So ID is gonna be auto generated for us. So the first key is gonna be title, and that's gonna be from the baker item contract again. So contract dot baker item dot title. Okay, and the title will be we need to get the title from this, right? So just one thing, right? So before so the title will be in the item, right? So it's gonna be item dot get title. Okay, and same again values dot put. Okay, baker item contract dot baker item, and it's gonna be cost now. Okay, and it's gonna be item dot get cost. So like if you see here in the on click method, I've taken the data and I've put them into an object and I've passed the object reference here. So that's why we're able to get the data. Okay. So again I'm gonna say values dot put baker item contract dot baker item dot, it's gonna be time now, and it's gonna be item dot get time. Okay. And we have the content values, right? So now the final thing is to send save the data into the database. Okay, so let's see how they do it. They do db.insert. Okay, so let's go again. Let's do db.insert. Okay, first parameter is the table name. Okay, so the table name is, again it's in the contract, right? So baker item contract dot table name. Okay, second parameter is something called null column hack. Okay, so I'm not gonna explain this right now. I'll explain this in the next video. So for now, just have null, and third parameter is the values that we created, right? Values. Okay. So this insert will return a long. Okay, long ID equal to db.insert. So this ID will have a positive value if the insert is successful. or it'll have -1 if the insert is not successful. So we basically just want to say if id greater than or equal to 0, okay, toast successfully saved, okay. Otherwise we're gonna say toast error saving to database, okay. So to save the data, what we're doing, we're getting the database in the writable mode. We're having the content values. We're putting those all the values we need to save to database in a key value pair, and we're calling insert, right? So I hope this video is clear to you guys. If you guys have any doubts, feel free to ask. This I know this is a kind of complex topic, so I'll post some more video lectures of some other people. In case you don't understand this lecture, you can go through those lectures and hopefully you can understand better. So as usual, if you have any questions, okay, feel free to ask in the comments below. Feel free to ask in the comments below, and with the next video, we'll come with the continuation for that.